Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, Christian conservative political speaker Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a man named Tyler Robinson. And this event sent a shockwave through the country with so many people reacting in so many different ways. From those praying for him and his family and those condemning the actions of the shooter to those who have gone so far to call for all-out civil war in the United States. To those who are indifferent and feel Charlie Kirk does not deserve any empathy, as well as those who are celebrating his death, mocking him, and even saying he got what he deserved. And these distinct differences created a melting pot for an aftermath that could tear this country apart. So without further ado, let's get into the sins of Charlie Kirk. And oh yeah, let's run that intro. So I wanted to start this video off with how I feel about the Charlie Kirk situation, as I think it will help in understanding what I'm presenting in this video. And honestly, my feelings on this event are pretty complicated. I did happen to see the video of Charlie Kirk getting hit in the neck, and honestly, for a split second, I did feel bad, as that video is pretty graphic and hard to watch. However, don't mistake my basic humanity for sympathy or empathy, because I do not feel bad for Charlie Kirk. I don't think it was right that he went out the way he did, as I don't believe you defeat people like Charlie Kirk with bullets. You defeat them with words, ideas, and evidence. I mean, after all, the things that Charlie Kirk said, a lot of his talking points, they were so weak and based in actual lies that they were so easy to debunk. And he's been debunked so many times that there are whole compilations out there of him being debunked, because he just clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. Because just like every racist, bigoted piece of human garbage, Charlie has absolutely no idea what the fuck he's talking about and is just making shit up. So let me be clear, I do not condone political violence in any form, as we don't defeat these people with violence, we defeat these people with our ideas. But again, even though I condemn the political violence, I do not have an ounce of empathy for Charlie Kirk. I'm pretty indifferent to it. You know, I wasn't happy, it didn't make my day so much better, ooh, yes! But I don't care either. I can't be made to feel bad for somebody like Charlie Kirk, and we'll get to why that is in a second. But I will say I do feel a little bit of sympathy for his children, as they are too young to understand what's going on. I think the oldest is like 3 years old. So to them, they're just losing a father. They're not, you know, they don't understand what the climate is or anything like that. And they had to watch that right in front of them. So who knows how much that could have traumatized them. But like I said, I don't care about Charlie Kirk. I don't feel bad for him or have any empathy for him. And let's get into why that is as we discuss who Charlie Kirk really was. There are a few things that could describe Charlie Kirk: racist, homophobic, xenophobic, but I just prefer the term bigot, as it fully encapsulates all of Charlie's hateful ideas into one nice word. But let's start off with that first word, racism. And let's start off with Charlie's favorite group of people to shit on, black people. Charlie Kirk has said many hateful, racist things about black people and has outright lied about us on many occasions. But why don't we start off with a few examples? And with these examples, I'm going to go point by point to show you just how wrong he really is. So let's first start off with hearing how Charlie feels about a black pilot.
Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
So Charlie is saying this because of DEI. Because in his brain, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, will just give out jobs to unqualified black people just because they're black, just so they can fit some sort of diversity quota. Basically saying that a black person was just given a free handout for this job and that they don't deserve it, and that they may have even taken a white person's spot. And this one is so comical because it shows his and a lot of other people's misunderstanding of DEI and how it works. DEI is a hiring practice that aims to give fair and equal opportunities to people from marginalized communities like black people, so that we have a fair chance at landing a job. DEI doesn't just mean they're just giving away jobs to black people just for no reason. And the reason stuff like DEI even exists in the first place is because of the studies that show that white people are more likely to get jobs over black or other applicants despite having the same qualifications. Also, white sounding names receive more callbacks from employers. But another thing to take into account is that black people actually benefit the least from DEI. Black men in particular, at the very bottom. But you know who actually benefits the most from DEI? I bet you're not gonna fucking guess it. It's white women, and disproportionately so. But why, when discussing DEI, does Charlie Kirk specifically call this out for black people, despite black people benefiting the least from DEI? Why is he so concerned when he sees a black pilot, but doesn't show any concern when he sees a white female pilot? Oh, because he doesn't really care about DEI, he just hates black people. And Charlie continues this racism coded as concern for excellence and merit, where he says this:
because of DEI, it begs the question, when you see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. I wouldn't think that if the CEO of United or these airlines would reject DEI and say excellence is the ultimate standard. Is if I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? It almost creates thought patterns that are not necessarily wholesome. It creates resentment, doesn't it, Heather? No one really cares when it's HR managers. No one cared when it was, just kind of paper shufflers or even engineers. But now when it's like, wait, hold on a second. You're going to remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian.
Again, knowing that DEI isn't just giving away jobs, and knowing that black people benefit the absolute least from DEI, why does he continue to bring up black people in every scenario? Again, because he hates black people. It's really that simple. Charlie Kirk has also said that Martin Luther King was a bad person and not worth celebrating.
We note in our piece that Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true.
Yes, Martin Luther King Jr., the face of the civil rights movement, the same movement that gave black people and other groups of people equal rights to white people. Yet the guy who's the head of that movement, he was a bad guy, not worth celebrating in Charlie's eyes. He's also said many times that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake.
Once a week we talk about why the Civil Rights Act was a mistake.
The act that outlaws discrimination of people based on things like race. Yeah, in Charlie Kirk's eyes, that was a huge mistake. Charlie Kirk also thinks that black people were better off in the 1940s, saying, yeah, it was bad and it was evil back then, but they committed less crimes.
When blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that?
So I'm sorry, are you trying to say that blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil. But what happened? Something changed.
Yes, black people were better off during a time where we had less rights, there was segregation, and we were getting violently attacked just for existing. He also said that Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson, and Ketanji Brown Jackson lacked the brain processing power to be taken seriously, and only have made it as far as they have because of affirmative action and stealing a white woman's spot.
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
But again, we know this is not how affirmative action even works. But also, white women benefit the most from affirmative action. They're at the top of the list once again. So having their spot stolen doesn't make any goddamn sense. And the irony of a man who attended a community college for one semester telling 4 people who graduated from Ivy League schools that they lack the brain processing power is insane. And I'll let this next clip speak for itself.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Okay. Let's talk about it. These are obviously racist claims, but I will respond to them as if Charlie Kirk were a reasonable person.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Wrong. Just 38% of America's prison population is black. That's according to the U.S. government. But it makes you wonder why Charlie feels the need to add an additional 12% to the black prison population. Could it be because his bigoted talking points only work if he exaggerates them? If Charlie were actually looking for the race that makes up half the prison population in the U.S., he'd look no further than white people at 57%.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do.
Wrong. The word so is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
So blacks commit more crimes.
He's saying so, as in therefore, as in one could conclude, but Charlie knows he's lying. Even if he hadn't just lied about the black prison population, Charlie is smart enough to know that correlation does not equal causation, but he's hoping that you don't know that. So he deploys the word so to make you think he's coming to an obvious conclusion.
So blacks...
Instead, he's making an illogical, racist leap. Charlie knows that we don't have usable data about who commits crimes. It's impossible to have that data since so many crimes go both unreported and or unsolved. Charlie knows that we only have data about arrests and convictions. I'll come back to that data in a moment. What's painfully obvious is that Charlie Kirk isn't interested in understanding the statistics he so carelessly misquotes. He's interested in making bad faith arguments, something that becomes even more obvious in his next point.
Blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
Wrong again, and loud this time. If Charlie were interested in honesty, he would have mentioned the other 1350 statistic. Yes, black people are about 13% of the population, but make up 53% of all criminal exonerations. In fact, black people make up 55% of all murder exonerations. Specifically, black people are more likely than any other group in this country to be convicted of crimes they did not commit. And then people like you have the nerve to parade these stats around as though they prove something. The reality is that you probably know these stats, but you leave them out on purpose, because to bring that stat into this conversation would make some people think. And that's the last thing a person like you wants.
Next, we have yet another lie about black Americans from Charlie Kirk.
Happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact.
I mean, he can't help himself, man, you know? I mean, if you actually believe this, I don't even know what I can say to you at this point. Black people do not target white people for fun. The reality of the situation is that most white victims of violent crime were victims of white offenders. If you are white and you were murdered, there is an 80% chance, that the offender was white. I mean, look at the guy who assassinated Kirk. He looks pretty white to me. But knowing this and knowing these stats that you can easily find with a Google search, why does Charlie feel the need to lie and paint black people as these horrifying monsters who just hunt down white people for no reason, just for sport? Because he's racist and he wants white people out there to fear black people, so that the discrimination we face not only goes unnoticed, but even seems justified. I mean, he even had the nerve to say that George Floyd was a scumbag and that George Zimmerman was hunted down at night by Trayvon Martin.
George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin at 2 a.m.
He is a liar, a racist, and not only shows no sympathy or empathy for black victims, but outright blames them for their own mistreatment. But that's some of the things Charlie Kirk has said in regards to black people. I don't know how you can hear any of that stuff and still somehow think he's not a racist bigot. But let's move on to some other things Charlie has said. In this next section of the video, I call evil for no reason. He says that the Bible says if a person is gay, they should be stoned to death, and he called this law a perfect law in regards to sexual matters.
Is in Leviticus 18 is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters.
So I guess in his mind, if you're gay, you're getting stoned. He not only believes in public executions, but believes that kids should watch them.
You know what? I want to watch that execution. That'll make my day better. I want to see him on a public block and get him be publicly executed. And I think that would be justice. You think children should have, you should see it? What is the age? At what age should you start to see public executions?
16. I think you could do it earlier. I think you maybe at age 12.
He genuinely believes that children, little innocent children, should watch people die publicly. I mean, who believes something like that? Like, that won't traumatize them to see that. I don't think people are just meant to see people die in these graphic ways. He also thinks that some gun deaths every year are worth it to keep the Second Amendment.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Let's remember that children are taken out every year in school shootings, and gun violence remains the leading cause of death in children. But hey man, gotta keep our right to bear arms, am I right? I mean, in some crazy irony, there was even a school shooting the same day he got taken out. And I'll end this part of the video with this. He believes that empathy is a made-up term.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up new age term that does a lot of damage.
So if he himself doesn't believe in empathy, why should I give him any? Especially knowing the things he says about my people, the lies he spread about me and my people. Why would somebody who doesn't even believe in empathy deserve any from me? But now that we know just how evil Charlie is, we can get to the next part of the video, the Maga Meltdown. So it's been a bit of time since this happened. However, the first few days of this happening, people were in a frenzy. But MAGA, they were losing their minds. I mean, besides some of the insane reactions to this event, like grown men crying in public over Charlie Kirk, but something they were all doing was finding a way to blame the left, saying that some radical liberal was the cause of this event. I mean, they were hoping and praying that this was some trans radical liberal with they them pronouns that was hired by Israel or something like that. I mean, they were coming up with all types of theories, and they even said that they wanted this assassin put to death. There were people even actually declaring civil war. Like, I'm not making that up. That might sound like I'm bullshitting. They were declaring civil war.
Mr. President, I implore you, call for a civil war. Call for a civil war and let us do our thing. Let us go door to door, street by street, and clean this country. Please, if you're watching this and you share the same sentiment, send it to Donald Trump, share it on your page, whatever. Get this message out there. This is not a joke. I'm a peaceful man. Time for peace is over. I'm willing to fight and I'm willing to die. We are all Charlie Kirk.
Even people like Elon Musk was saying, we're gonna have to fight or die. Like, do you know how insane you have to be to call for a civil war in the country you live in? I mean, how do you see this playing out? You think because you're some tough, macho, Christian, conservative man with you and your guns, you're gonna destroy all the trans losers in the Civil War? Is that what you really think would happen? I mean, who do you think is on the left? A bunch of scrawny losers? Like, is that what y'all really think? No. The reality of the situation is that millions will be lost, including people that you love and you hold dear. But you're willing to risk that for some imaginary enemy. They were calling for civil war before we even knew who the perpetrator was. Before we knew it was Tyler Robinson, these people wanted a civil war. I mean, the dude literally saying, Trump, make the call and we'll go door to door and cleanse this country. What do you think he would do if he knocked on my door and my black ass opened the door? You think he gonna let me slide? I'm not part of the left, but you think he cares about that? There were even HBCUs who were targeted right after this attack. Again, this is before we even knew who the perpetrator was. But the HBCUs were targeted anyway, because no matter what happens in this country, it's always somehow a black person's fault. But then you saw the switch up in a lot of these MAGA people once they found the actual identity of the shooter. Once we found out it was Tyler Robinson, a white man who grew up in a MAGA household and who loved him a Second Amendment, it went from war to prayers. People who were calling for his death were now saying, we need to pray for him. He is just so lost, this lost young man. We must pray this evil gets out of his heart. He was radicalized by the left, man. Yeah, a guy in Utah was radicalized by the left. Come on, man. And this is what I love about this entire situation, is that you really get to see on full display just how hypocritical these people are and just how ignorant a lot of these people are. We have the president of the United States, the one who's in control over everybody, who's supposed to be leading us. Instead of calming everybody down, trying to bring us together, he's turning up the heat. He's telling people, well, the right, they have a reason to be radicalized because of the left. The governor of Utah even saying he was praying that it wasn't one of us.
I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us.
I see so many white people mourning this guy and telling us we need to have empathy for him and that we have this huge problem in America. I mean, I'm talking about people who never post anything or really anything political. They don't post any sort of opinion about stuff, but they have the nerve to say RIP. Oh, well, this man, he had a family. He was a father. These were just, you know, some opinions. We all have opinions. You just disagreed with his opinions, you know? And yeah, he was a crazy guy. He said some crazy stuff, man. He was a bit of an asshole. But come on, man. We all have to come together as human beings. This is tragic, man. But this is the reality of the situation when it comes to Charlie Kirk. This is my last piece on this, and I'm just going to end it right here. Charlie Kirk was an evil, racist, bigoted human being. He routinely spread lies and misinformation about marginalized groups of people. He spread hatred and caused division throughout this country. And not only that, but he enriched himself off the hatred and the division he put out into the world. He made millions of dollars and seeked political power from causing this strife between people. His talking points weren't just opinions, but harmful rhetoric to spread hatred and fear towards other groups of people. And yeah, he has a family, but so do people like George Floyd and Trayvon Martin. But that didn't stop him or others from mocking their deaths, mocking the deaths of innocent victims. If you can see all who Charlie Kirk was and thinks that he deserves to be mourned and deserves to be remembered and deserves empathy, especially from black people or just other minorities in general, I mean, I just don't really know what to say to that. If you can see all of that and still wonder why there will be people who are indifferent or not showing empathy, you really might need to evaluate who you are. Because if you agree with him, well, then keep doing your thing. You racist anyway, so whatever, right? But if you are a person who's against racism, homophobia, and just overall hatred of marginalized people, if you're against discrimination and oppression, but you're still saying RIP to Charlie Kirk, RIP to somebody who thinks it would be better if people like me had less rights, you might need to do some real soul searching. Ask yourself why you and other people should mourn, give condolences, and say RIP to an evil human being who made millions off the spread of hatred, who influenced so many people to vote for a president that has made their lives hard, made their lives worse. I mean, so many people are struggling right now, white people included, because of Trump, and that is because of Charlie Kirk's influence to get them to vote for him. So again, if you feeling that we all need to pray for this man who made millions off the spread of hatred and lies, ask yourself, why would you do that? Because if you can do that for him, then why are you silent when it comes to actual victims of racism, violence, or violence motivated by racism? Because again, people who I never see post anything made sure they got their word out to say RIP to this man. I wonder if you're gonna say RIP to any of these people. There was even a Democrat back in June who was taken out in her own home along with her husband by a right-wing extremist. Where were the calls for civil war? Where was the outrage? Where was the mourning? Where was, oh my gosh, she's somebody's wife, he was somebody's husband? Where was all that? I mean, she white just like y'all, but you didn't care about her. You didn't care to post her. You didn't care to get your little stuff out about her. You didn't say RIP to her. Why is that? Stop thinking you're some good person because you're against violence and you want to show some empathy towards people. Because when it happens to other people, you are silent, nowhere to be found, and you never express any care, sympathy, or empathy. So we will do the same for Charlie Kirk. A man as evil, hateful, and bigoted as he was doesn't deserve empathy. And I think he would agree with me on that. He reaped what he sowed. But let me know what y'all think about this whole situation down below in the comments. I won't do the usual intro because this was a pretty serious topic, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of frustrated me a bit seeing everything that was happening. But again, let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will catch you guys next time.